Welcome to Equal Entertainment. I'm Tracy E. Gilchrist. There's a new series on Prime Video that's giving more power to women, literally. Imagine if girls suddenly had the power to electrocute people. The power reverses the power balance of the world while delivering a message of bodily autonomy. I had the pleasure of speaking with the women-led executive producing team and members of the cast about the element of family, reproductive rights, and more. Congratulations on the series.
Oh, thank you so much.
For sure. And I want to begin with Rael and ask you a little bit about taking this incredible novel of Naomi Alderman's to the screen. This is no small task.
Yes, it was no small task because it's no small novel. It is kind of iconic. It's vast, it's global, it's ambitious. Books like this don't come around very often, especially ones that are totally female driven and have such an important message at its center. So it was really daunting, but also the opportunity I had personally been waiting for as a showrunner for my entire career. I had gotten to work on things that were a great launching pad for me to be ready to tackle a show of this size and of this subject matter. So yeah, I was scared, but I held hands with Naomi Alderman, the author, all the way through it. She was really involved. And together, I think that people who love the book will be happy to see that I think the show really captures the essence of what that book set out to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you for that. And then I wanted to ask you, Jane, I read the book when it came out a few years ago and it was incredibly prescient. But, now here in the States, we have overturned Roe v. Wade. And a big piece of this is around bodily autonomy at various kinds. And that could even translate to what's happening for trans folks. And so I wonder, would you talk a little bit about that piece, the bodily autonomy piece of the series?
I think, you're right. When Naomi wrote the book many years ago, it was important and prescient. But now, more than ever, we're in this moment post Me Too where, we thought we had some hope 2 or 3 years ago that maybe the conversation was beginning to change around all of these issues. And now we feel as if we're going backwards again, and there's a backlash against that. And I would hope that this show coming now, the timing of it, can be part of the backlash against that backlash and just contribute to the conversation. The Roe v. Wade overturning is just horrifying. For in the UK, watching that happen over here, I couldn't quite believe that was where we were going to end up over here. And it's so shocking in many ways after the hard fought battle as a feminist for, since the day I was born, I believe, to get to this point. So the show explores all of those things. We don't do everything in all detail in this first season because we're hoping for more. So we're hoping that we'll be able to explore more of those issues around bodily autonomy in future series if we get to make them.
Great. Well, thank you. And also, Naomi, I saw you shaking your head. Did you want to add to the conversation around how the show takes that on? It's such a big piece.
It's such an important question right now in the world, and it just makes me so angry that every time there's a step forward, there's kind of 2 steps back, but you've just got to keep trying, haven't you? That's the thing. But the fact that a young girl who's attacked by somebody and becomes pregnant would get more time in prison for having an abortion than the man who attacked her is just mind-blowing to me, and I just can't get my head around it. So that's why stories that make you think about different possibilities are so important.
Choice.
Eddie, I'm going to go to you and ask you a little bit about how the role of family dynamics plays into the power and with your character and his daughter.
Well, within the story, because you're turning the sexual power dynamic on its head and reversing it, the interesting thing about the series is it explores all different male-female relationships, husband, wife, mother, son, boss, employee, and the relationship between Bernie and Roxy is the iconic father-daughter relationship. So that's what the function of that relationship is within the story. And so that's just that we knew what our job was to do, and we did it.
You did it incredibly well. Thank you. And Zrinka, I wonder, would you talk a little bit about your character who has really lived by her wits for so long, just by being smart and careful, and then she has this moment where she now has physical power. And would you talk about the difference between having to live just kind of by your own wits and then having this power that you can kind of take back what you've lost?
What is different, when she was a kid, her power was her talent.
Mhm.
She was an Olympic gymnast, and that was kind of her ticket to a better life.
Yeah.
You know, and that she saw that, like, okay, I can live my life differently. I'm not going to be poor. I will learn English, and, you know, that will be my card for a better life. So she had that, she had her talent. The moment that was taken away from her, and basically she was like sold like a sex trophy to an
Yeah.
old guy. And that's when her only talent is, and her only power is her sexuality, which
Yeah.
is really sad.
Yeah.
So that's the switch from being a talented kid in sports to living your life and having sexuality as your own weapon.
Yeah.
Weapon.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And then Ria, I wonder, would you talk a little bit about, the role of grief with your character and how that manifests into, this outsized anger with her power?
Yeah, I think grief is like one of her big motivators throughout the series. Like it motivates her to want revenge. And yeah, I think that it was quite cathartic playing a role where someone is so kind of angry and is releasing that anger, and you see her like screaming and letting out her power. And, when she shouts at Bernie and says, or what, she's kind of showing that she's just as powerful as him now, and he's kind of met his match, and there's nothing that he can really do about it.
Thank you to the creators and cast of The Power for speaking with me. It's a great watch, and the themes of the series are incredibly timely. Episodes are streaming now on Prime Video. Legendary country music star Shania Twain is calling for more equity and diversity in the country music industry. Twain used her acceptance speech for the Equal Play Award at the CMT Awards to call for changes. She says when she wrote the phrase, "Man, I feel like a woman," she had no idea it would become an undercurrent of a decades-long career. Twain says she's thrilled the phrase has been adopted by communities around the world. For accepting her award, Twain shouted out some of the diverse acts she'll perform with on her Queen of Me tour this year, including Lily Rose and Mickey Guyton. A woman in the Philippines is the oldest person ever to appear on a Vogue cover. Apa Wong-od is a 106-year-old tattoo artist from the mountain village of Buscalan. She's been perfecting the art of hand-dipping tattoos since she was a teenager. She's the Philippines' oldest mambabatok, or traditional Kalinga tattooist. International visitors now make up most of her clientele. Wong-od said she's training her grandnieces to keep the tradition alive. Vogue Philippines says she represents what is beautiful about the Filipino culture. Thank you for joining me for this Equal Entertainment. Visit us on the Advocate Channel YouTube page for more. I'm Tracy E. Gilchrist, and that's what's happening in entertainment.